Hi, what's up guys? Welcome back to a new video on East Coast Manga. So today we're going to be talking about Portus. So this is a horror manga and it's also a one-shot. Now, this is like an actual true one-shot. It's one volume of manga, but in my opinion, I call one-shots like one book. So even if a series may have like 2 or 3 volumes, if it's all in one book and there's nothing after that, technically I call that a one-shot, even though it may not be the correct term for it. But this is a true one-shot. It's also a horror manga. Now, some of you guys may not be interested in horror manga, but this is actually a pretty classic concept, how the story was written. If you guys have ever watched The Ring, so basically, for anyone who hasn't watched The Ring, there was this movie going around where it was actually on VHS, if people even know what VHSs are anymore. But basically you put it in the VHS player and it plays this movie, and then you watch the movie. It's just this like weird film type thing. Then you get a phone call after saying you're gonna die in 7 days, and then this creepy girl with like fair white skin and black hair covering her face, super creepy, comes out of the TV and kills you. Well, in this manga, it's kind of similar concept to that, except it's revolving around a video game. So it's this secret level in a video game. Now, I'm not gonna give away spoilers, but I'm just gonna explain the concept. It's a secret level in a video game where if you get to it, basically this little boy comes out and just absolutely torments your entire life. And apparently it's a pretty hard point to get to in the game, but at the same time there's a couple characters in this manga who are able to get to it, so it's a little confusing. So basically we follow this high schooler and one of our friends ends up playing the game, ends up dying, and then the story kind of just goes on from there. And I would say the first half of this story is basically trying to understand that yes, this game is cursed, and trying to understand like, you know, people are dying from this. And then the second half of the story is like figuring out why it's cursed. And then it's also, you know, her experience going through the levels and stuff like that. It's really cool, but it's also a very strange concept. And the fact that this also revolves around these things called kokeshis, which are basically cursed dolls. I'll try to put up a picture, but basically these wooden dolls with just like a face and a torso, but no legs or arms. And according to this manga, like according to the backstory, basically these dolls were made because these children in this village had to be killed and eaten because there was no food and it was just extreme famine. So when the children were killed, they were basically these dolls that were made as kind of a tribute. And one of these dolls plays a huge role in this video game being cursed, but I won't get into much more than that. But, you know, for a one-shot, I think it really did its job. It's not too long, as you can see right here. So it's relatively short. I finished this in probably, I don't know, maybe an hour and a half. It's also not too expensive. So this is a Viz Media copy. Retail is $9.99. I'm not sure what I paid for it. I bought it off Amazon. Do think it's worth the purchase just because of the fact that it's not that expensive and it's only one volume of manga. Now, if you're not into horror manga, then I probably wouldn't get it. Although I think it's still pretty good. I think it has a pretty good backstory, and there's some really good moments in it that I really like. The first half was kind of a bit slow, and then when it transitioned in the middle, it got a little confusing, but then it basically cleared up and it wasn't too hard to follow. But also if you like horror manga or just you think you might like, you know, darker series, this is also pretty refreshing because it's not a Junji Ito, so you know, you get a new perspective, you get new characters, new artwork. The artwork's pretty good. It's not like anything insane because you just don't really need that, but it definitely doesn't fall flat for me. Now, do I think this idea could have been expanded into a multi-volume series? Maybe. I think it does a pretty good job as a one-volume manga. Similar to The Ring, like I wouldn't make The Ring into a TV show. I think it works the best as a movie, like a lot of the horror genre does. I mean, that's why you see a lot more horror movies and you'll see a lot of horror TV shows. So I think this volume itself could have been expanded. I think this could have been a bigger one-shot and just added a little more meat to the first half. I think the second half was fine. I think it would have been a little cool actually to expand that a little too. But for what it is, I don't think it's a bad manga. I think it's actually pretty good. And I don't think you'll be disappointed if you pick it up. I'm not like trying to hype it up because it's not like the best thing I've ever read, But for one volume and for it being a horror manga, like I've been saying, I think it's pretty good. It didn't scare me or anything because I am a little desensitized to the whole like horror genre just because I really like horror and I've kind of grew up on that. But it is pretty freaky, and I think to your normal person it probably could be a little scary, if not a lot scary. I'm not exactly sure. And I would also say like this is not similar enough to The Ring where you have the same like Ring story. It's just similar in the aspect of like digital media being a gateway to being killed, basically. And so yeah, that's been it for my review. If you want to pick it up, go ahead. If you don't have to. But I thought this was pretty neat, and I thought it was a pretty enjoyable read. And yeah, so that's been it. Catch you guys later.